What's up?
Good evening, everyone. T-Rob here with the Biz Pulse, and I've got one of my favorite guys in our community, and most people know this guy, the man, the myth, the Texan.
There you go.
CryptoHeartBeat.
What's up, T-Rob? It's good to see you.
Another day, man. Another nickel.
That's right. It's good to see you. When I hear that intro, I always think of the captain, man. Every time. So great. I love that intro.
Yeah, I know. And then I come on, and they're like, "Oh, it's not the captain."
Oh, they're like,
One day I'm gonna actually pull it off and just dress exactly like him and just.
That's right. You need to put the guns up. Yeah.
That's right, man. So, well, thank you for coming on. I know you're extremely busy. I mean, goodness, man. I want to say one thing before we get into it. Just thank you for all that you do, man. And it's not about a Texan Token. It's about what you do for the community. I mean, you put so much great stuff out and so much positive material, man. And I dig that. I know there's so many people that do. And I want to thank you for that because I know how much work you put into it.
Well, I appreciate it. I love doing it. And of course, in the bear market, what do we got, right? I mean, if we don't try to have a decent attitude about it, it's, we'll kill each other. It's crazy what's going on. And, I've just got such hope in this ecosystem. And, when you find something so good, right? Like Hex, you find something and it proves itself to you. And then you see, vision on top of vision from Richard, and you just go, this is incredible. I started my channel, 11 months ago or 10 months ago. And it's been an unbelievable journey. And, I thought, hey, we'll have Pulse Chain here by the end of last year. And now I'm just hoping that we get it by the end of this year.
No, you and everyone else, right?
Yeah.
So it's amazing when you say that. So you've only had your channel for like a year or?
Yeah, 10 months. It started on October 1st and it just exploded. It was crazy. And I think Brandon takes credit for that. It's really Brandon's. It's his fault. But what's interesting is the origin of my channel was I was watching CC, actually, who's from Liquid Loans, right? And this is before all that. He was talking with Adam Stokes. My focus is all weird. He was talking to Adam Stokes. And he was explaining Hex. And I'm like, this is how you explain Hex, right? And I was like, wow. And I was looking for his content online and I couldn't find any. I'm like, all right, I got to do this. I got to talk about Hex this way because nobody's talking about it this way. And of course, then I go to Austin and meet people, or I go to Vegas and people come up to me and I think they're going to say, hey, I like your channel. And they're like, my grandmother likes your channel. I'm like, thanks a lot. No, so it's definitely, I've got a different demographic than most. I think I've got a group that's a little bit different from Jim Rat Crypto, right? So
yeah, probably a little bit different, probably a little bit.
Yeah. I love that guy. I love that.
Yeah, me too. It's amazing though how quickly you've grown that. And from my standpoint, looking at, I watch a lot of different streamers, but I always see that people they're attracted to you because of the positivity, right? I mean, they're so I don't know that I've ever seen you really having a really bad day. I mean, or you hide it very well, and I know you. Do, but it's just nice to just hey, I need some CryptoHeartBeat. I'm gonna go over there and just, you know what I mean? It's like an uplifting thing. So I appreciate that about you.
Well, and I see the world, that's if you talk to my wife, she'd be like, yeah, land the plane, bro, land the plane. So you got to take it in chunks, right? It's like anything, but yeah, it's the only way to fly, in my opinion, because, everybody's got a perspective. And I think what's cool about YouTube is it allows you to express yourself. And I think what people are attracted to is authenticity. They just want you to just be yourself. Like, you don't have to play a game. You don't have to be a character. You don't have to do anything. Just bring what you've got, bring your skills, abilities, talents to the table. And what I've found, and really the revelation of what brings value in the blockchain, is about community building. And it's strangely about considering others in addition to yourself. It's a love for one another. And it's so cool that, it's weird to me that a financial product brings people together, and some of the greatest friendships are coming out of Hex and Pulse communities, and it's the last place you'd look for it. But I've recognized that, because you launch a token and you think about what makes a token work, right?
Right.
What is it? What are the elements that make it successful? And so you have to be a student of that. And boy, I've just learned a lot of things over the years. And this last year's been like drinking out of a fire hose.
I understand. So we have some awesome people in here, and a lot of these people. Taryn was actually the first in, but my man David Lee. Now that's an awesome guy right there. David, thank you for being here. Tank Crypto.
Tank.
Dougie.
Mr. Peach.
Chris. Yeehaw. Love it.
Side effects.
Evening all. Samantha. DB Cooper. Hex is the GOAT. I agree. 100. Let's see, man. We've got all kinds of
here. Nice.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining. There's Sandy B. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for joining. I hear an echo. I don't know if it's me or what.
Yeah, let me turn my sound down, see if I can get rid of that. Is that better?
I think so. Yes, sir.
All right, good. Yeah, I had mine up a little loud.
Yeah, sorry about that. I might turn mine down a little bit too. So let's dive into this thing. I want to talk to you about the Texan token. Obviously, I'm supporting Texas with this hat, but I want you to really deep dive into like the contract of it, what it really means. It's not really all for Texas. And I know you've covered this a lot on a bunch of different streams, but I just wanted people to understand it again. So, I just kind of want to let you lead on how you want to go through that. I don't have a canned questions for you. So it's your platform. You show me what you want to show me, and I'll add what you need me to add.
Yeah. And if there are questions that you've got too, I think people are hearing an echo maybe on your side. I'm not sure there. So I guess really the introduction is really why are we doing this? I started my channel because I heard that Richard Hart was forking Ethereum, right? I got into Hex really a couple days. I'm not sure if you muted me or not. I got into Hex a couple days before Big Payday. So I heard about it on a TV ad, and which no one can believe, right? That I was watching a TV ad at 2 a.m. And I literally saw this ad and I thought, well, this has got to be some sort of like multi-level marketing thing. It's got to be some it was so out of place. And so from there, I went online and I looked at it. And it was crypto. Well, I had a little bit of crypto. I was not in crypto. My brothers were into it, but it was really, we had talked about in 2015 about starting a mining deal, right? Just having a miner in the office and, just mining Bitcoin or something. And this was when Bitcoin was $414. And we thought, oh man, there's just no way. It's, in order to double our money, we have to be $800. There's just no way. And so we just kind of threw out that idea and continued doing our work. But it wasn't until that TV ad where I thought, this is interesting. And it was such a grandiose claim, right? Like, do you want to be really rich? I mean, really rich? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm in on that. And then I started watching Hexo and on DLive, and we'd watch him. We were trading futures at the time, me and ZZ Tesco, and we literally, I just loved watching Hexo, and they just genuine guy. And I put $600 into Hex, right? And one of the things I've learned is that people that are new to crypto, I had some other coins, but it was not an investment strategy. It was like, well, I'll just play around with this. But when I put $600 into Hex, pre Big Payday, I didn't think much of it, and I just started watching Hex. So I'm like, yeah, I'll pay attention to this thing. And of course, things dumped. And I remember those days thinking, man, maybe I should buy some more. And we just watched Hexo. That's what we did, right? And it was entertainment for us, and the captain and all that stuff. And so it was fun. But then every time I went home for dinner, I would tell my wife, it would be sitting at the table, and I'd say, hey, that crypto thing? And she's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, that it hit $1,000. She's like, what? She's like, that's not real. And then of course the next day and the next day, hey, it's 1,500, it's 2,500, it's 3,800, it's 7,000, it's 10,000, it's 12,000, and then it's 15,000, right? And she's like, every time she would say, that's not real money. And so my daughter turned 16 and we decided to buy her a car. And that's when my wife realized that crypto and Hex especially was real. And so I think a lot of people that get into tokens for the first time, and this is true about Texan, because we're talking about a lot of people, we're tokenizing a community of people that are no coiners. People don't back up the truck and take their life savings and put it into speculative assets. They just don't.
Right.
And so, one of the things I've learned about this is that the reason the Hex OGs did so well is because they went through the last cycle, right? Either were wrecked or saw the benefits of it. But at the bottom of this, they see this guy, Richard Hart. And Richard was telling them the truth when everyone else was lying to them. And I think what's incredible about looking at the history of Hex and looking at the story of how the Hex OGs won so big is because they learned in that cycle before. And the encouragement I like to give people is that we're coming up on the bottom of the market, right? There's going to be some event probably at the end of the year here that's going to be crazy. We're probably going to hit that low that Richard says, either 10 or 11,000 in Bitcoin. But once we hit the bottom, folks, and we launch the Pulse chain, there's no place to go but up because of Hart's Law. And so that's the excitement. Now, it'll probably go sideways for a long time. It'll take years, but there's hope. And so in this process, I am kind of living out this next cycle and hoping to have an experience like the Hex OGs had, right? So Pulse and Pulse X and all these projects. But what I'm excited about is the fact that as a community, as we've built these relationships, that essentially we've got this decentralized VC firm, right? So we got 125 new projects on the Pulse chain, and the Pulse chain isn't even launched yet. We're one of them. But I look at this and I go, hold on a second. I've got people like Crypto Coffee, right? I've got people like Hexo, I've got people all across the board, Rags, everybody that I can listen to and learn something from, K4K, right? All these people that see things from a different perspective. And so I can learn. And so I was thinking this, Balliot Brand was one of my first interviews on my channel. And he said, hey, Matt, when $100 turns into $1 million and when $1,000 turns into 10 million? And I just laughed. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, that's what happened in Hex. And I think people it's so hard to fathom a 10,000X. And not everybody bought at the bottom and sold at the top. But that kind of thing is transformational for people. And, when you see something so good and you're like, hold on a second, this is not just one thing, it's many things, is that we have a chance and an opportunity. If we're smart, we've learned from Richard Hart, we know the tenets of good crypto, we could pick some horses to ride here and we may have a winner. We may have many winners. And so, of course, the Richard Hart project. So, that to me, when I saw the Pulse chain, this fork of Ethereum, I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity. But my whole background is in the nonprofit space. I've worked with nonprofit organizations for 22 years, and I've worked with, groups that are trying to raise money for great causes.
Right.
And one of the things that dawned on me was, Richard Hart created a tool that mimicked a current financial product, the existing financial product of a time deposit. And I thought, what? There's the core product of the nonprofit world is an endowment, and endowments are really powerful for nonprofits. So, like, for example, one of the largest endowments in the world, in the billions, is the Harvard University endowment. There's a number of huge endowments. Well, they never, ever, ever spend any of their principal. It's all investment income. And so, looking at the tenets of good tokenomics, understanding, no admin keys and this whole decentralized nature of censorship resistance is like, all right, if we're going to build something, we need to be able to connect that with something that people understand. And I believe long term, I think that nonprofit organizations are going to expose themselves to crypto and are going to look to products that create yield. And so the elements of endowment that we've mimicked with the Texan token and with this contract is what's called a perpetuity. And inside of an endowment is what's called a perpetuity. You want to perpetuate cash flows to operate. And the idea is anyone that's wealthy knows this. you don't touch your principal, right? You leverage that for interest income or yield. And that's what you want to spend. And you think about it, there's a lot of hex OGs that have such a big bag of hex that they never, ever, ever touch the principal. It's
Mm-hmm.
only the yield that comes off it. And so if a stake ends on a ladder, they take that core principal and they put it back into a stake. Like they do not spend, you don't kill the golden goose. And so that principle is really important. But we looked at, well, if my responsibility is to bring on people into the community and that the rising tide lifts all boats, then we need to figure out a way to bring lots of people in at once. And so I listened to Raoul Pal, and not everybody's a fan of his, but he was a former Goldman Sachs guy. And he said, hey, we're building digital countries. So Richard had to build a community from scratch.
Yeah.
Well, there are communities that are already galvanized around different causes. And so the Texas nationalist movement, which is galvanized around Texas independence, I'd started talking to, and I said to them, I literally said to them, I said, do you want to raise $1 million or $1 billion? And they went, I think $1 billion. And I said, well, the only way you're going to be able to do this, to really make this happen, is you're going to have to look at crypto. And so the inspiration for everything we're doing is really the SENS Foundation. Remember when, Richard, you could give to the SENS Foundation, a charitable organization, and then you'd get points in the SAC.
Yep.
That's a real innovation in fundraising. And so we literally decided, because of the legal concerns, that we were going to actually do a fundraising campaign 100% going to a nonprofit group. And that's the Texas Nationalist Movement. And they're a registered 501c4 organization. So here we are tokenizing a community of people, and they're no coiners, boy. They are folks who do not understand crypto. And so we're telling them the basics. So that's the background, that's the history, that's why, that's what it is. So I wanted to get that out of the way first.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. And like when I'm still getting an echo and I don't know where it's coming from, so I apologize.
It's fine on my side.
Okay. I'll try to be quiet. The question that I have is, how do you see is the most effective way to onboard people that are just no coiners? I mean, and I know this is a little bit of, I'm kind of getting you off of what we came in to talk, but I'd love to get your, how you go about doing that.
Okay. Well, I've talked about this a number of times within my channel, but here's the thing. I think it's really important that not a lot of people understand. People buy benefits, not features. Okay. So people buy benefits, and you have to understand that people see benefits differently. What is a benefit to me is different than it's a benefit to you. And certainly what's different to my wife. And so when you look at the personalities, I think it's really important to understand, who am I talking to? Because it's not about words I say or, inflection I use. And it's not about 38% APY. So I'm going to be, straightforward. One of the things they say in the advertising world is, tell me about my lawn, not your grass seed. It's really important, right? Everybody wants to talk about themselves and their product. But in reality, we buy things that make our life better, that are benefits to us, right? We don't buy a Rolex because we need to tell time. We buy a Rolex to socially signal to other people that we're better than them, right? So at the end of the day, we have to understand, why is someone interested, or why would they be, and how would they see a benefit to them? So my wife, what's my wife concerned about? She's concerned about the girls, the schools, the weddings. She's concerned about securing our family. And so when I'm talking to someone and onboarding someone, I'm going to ask questions first. So I think the number one thing I do is I say, earn the right to talk. Do not talk first. You lose if you talk first. So what you ask people is, hey, what is your current investment strategy? Are you exposed to crypto? What do you know about it? And people will tell you and reveal to you what they value. And if you listen carefully, and this is just good sales 101, if you listen carefully, they will reveal, and you will be able to learn what's a benefit to them. So that's the core piece of it. And then you just tailor the message to them. So if I'm talking to somebody who's like super investment person, I would probably talk about strategic use of your funds, right? Effective, strategic, most effective use of your funds. And then I would add in the benefits. I'm sorry, the features. Hey, listen, this is yield bearing asset, right? But to my wife, she doesn't care about 38%. She's like, is this going to help us get to the point where we've got money that we don't waste that is going to fund the girls' futures? That's what she's concerned about. So in a nutshell, that's kind of it, is that we have to understand that what people hang on to is what the benefit to them is, not the features. The features reinforce the benefit.
Yeah, I thank you for that. It's funny because a lot of the stuff I see is people are pushing the features when people don't even understand what that means. And it's nice to hear, how you simplify it, because God gave us 2 ears, right? And I think sometimes we forget that. But anyway, so keep going. Let's dive into the no coiners, but talk to me about what this actually means. Like, what are you doing with it?
So, there's really two pieces of this. There's the short-term donation phase, and I'm going to break it down for you. At the end of the day, how do you get how do you have a successful token? And this is my opinion of how you have a successful token. Number one, you have to have a good team. You have to be doxed. You have to have a good contract. You have to have a security audit. You have to be up on the test net, and you have to have a D app that's working. Okay, those are my minimums. So we did not come out with the Texan token with an idea and a PowerPoint presentation going, hey, we're thinking about doing this. That is not, I do not appreciate that strategy.
Right.
If you're going to do something, do it. And so I think people appreciate the fact that it's all complete. We paid the $33,000 with Certic to get it certified. You can read that security audit. And so we made sure those things, and this was really important to Brandon, is that we had these things complete before we ever said a word about it. So we've been working on this. I've been working on this for 18 months. Well, what makes it work is you have to have people holding it. Well, who better to hold your token than the people who care about the cause, right? So there's people not only in crypto who understand crypto, but there's people within the organization, but they're early adopters. And there's not a lot of those people that want to just take a flyer. People in crypto understand what's going on. They care about tokenomics. They care about the things I just described. But it's a challenge, right? You have a certain number of believers. But I think the key is, especially because of the timing of launch of the Pulse chain is going to be in the bottom of the market, we have such an advantage. And the advantage that we have is we're going to airdrop anyone who has sacked for Pulse X, or has a hex stake as of July 4th. So Pulse X, and hex stakers before, if in fact you have participated and your wallet appears on the blockchain in Pulse X, or hex stake, you're going to receive a sizable amount of Texan token for free. You're a Genesis wallet. You're going to get rewarded. What do we know about people in the Richard Heart ecosystem? To me, the best educated people in all of crypto. They know how to hold. They know the value of staking. And so what do you need to make things work? More buyers than sellers. And you want to be able to communicate the incentive that is for you to hold. That's it. And Richard makes it really, really clear. That's all that matters. But here's the cool part. Because of Hart's law, once we hit the bottom and we launch, there's no place to go except up because of the bonding of pairs. And so the cool thing about this is we get to ride this wave together, and we get to be able to help unlock value for people within this Texas independence movement. And that to me is so exciting, because if you came middle of the market, you don't know if it's going up or down. You don't know which way. There's only one way to go, folks, in this next run. It's going to be up. So that's how I look at it. Yeah,
no, that's great. I mean, and you know it, and a lot of people know it, is this is the time when you get rich, right? And I'm not financial advice by any means, but the bear market it's time to put a little coin in, I guess. That's how I'll put it.
Well, and this is such a unique time. This is such a unique time in human history. I mean, when was the last time $100 turned into $1 million? Name it. I do not see it, right? Maybe if you were, a first investor, a seed investor for Facebook or Twitter, maybe. But other than that, which was only reserved for a couple people, this is such a big opportunity where you can expose yourself to a lot of different things But crypto, Richard said this. You shouldn't be diversifying. You should be in crypto. Well, there's a lot you could be in, and you've got to make wise decisions and do your own research. But this era will not be here forever. I think this is kind of the last big wave. This is where we go mainstream. I look at what MasterCard's doing with trying to maintain their middleman position when it comes to crypto and making it a means of exchange across a basket of different coins. And so, most people don't know about crypto yet. This is our last shot. And Richard Hart's given us some amazing opportunities and a layer one to build on. So to me, I don't think after this wave, I don't think the same kind of gains are going to be out there that early Hexicans saw. I think this is the last chance personally.
Yeah. Well, that's good for us, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, you talk to a lot of people, and I don't want to get over on the Hex thing or all that, but it's all tied together. It's like, we're still early. And I want people to understand that, man, just be patient, right? I mean, it's like, I think what's happened is some people have just left because they're like, I can't do this. I don't have the patience. And maybe they shouldn't be in the community, but I always tell people, just be patient, because like you've already said it a couple of times, Matt, is like, it only has one way that it can go.
Yeah.
And just hang on for the ride.
Yep. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. And, a good point of this is that, you and I have been on the earth for a little bit longer than some, and you see these things repeat themselves. So I graduated college in 1996, and that was the first credit card transaction on the internet with Netscape. I remember it very, very well. And I think about this, people saying, oh, this is going to be a revolution. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And of course, grandma's calling going, should I put my credit card in the internet? And no one's saying that now. But that's where we are right now. People are like, is that crypto stuff a scam? And that's actually the perfect time, is when people are uncertain. And so until we find that, we've made crypto easy, which is going to threaten DeFi, because true DeFi is hard. But everyone's going to kind of get in the middle. There's going to be a lot of middlemen, but it's going to make it easier for people to get into crypto. But in that process, it'll go mainstream. And once it goes mainstream, and hopefully we've got a vertically aligned ecosystem that's not government controlled, we got a shot. And that's why I think we're early.
Yeah, for sure. So I love that on your website, declare your independence, secure your future. I understand the secure your future, but declare your independence. What does that mean?
Yeah. So, what is I really think that at a high level, the systems of the financial systems have been set up really to enslave people. And that sounds like a pretty aggressive term. But if you think about this, it's because of the consumer nature and the ease of money to get and debt, is that people are in bondage, and they don't really see this, that they're in bondage. But most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have savings. And so they're just keeping their nose above the water. And, what are you going to do? Work a couple extra hours to get out of this? No, you're in it. And you've got in it because you got a mortgage, you got car payments, you got all these things, and then you've got inflation. Right. And I think what's so great about this is we have this opportunity to tell a story to people that frees them from this. But they have to understand that there is actually a problem and that they are in bondage. And so when we talk about your independence, I'm really queuing off of Richard Hart's vision for, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom to transact, a vertically aligned ecosystem that's not controlled, that's true DeFi, no admin keys, censorship resistance. All of this is liberating to people. And so, it's a metaphor for your own personal independence, but it's also for the independence of Texas, because this donation phase is going to go to help get a referendum on the ballot of Texas, so that the people of Texas can vote if they want to be an independent nation again. I mean, your hat says it all. Make Texas a country again.
Right.
Which is so exciting. I mean, the implications of it are unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, it's it changes the world, and I've told people that, and some get it and some don't. But I really believe that. But So talk about the donation phase, and when is that up, and how does all that work?
Yep. So the donation phase is going to last for another 45 days. So we're halfway through. One of the big changes that's come up is we had a bonding curve that was declining, and the TNM basically said to us, hey, we want to honor 10,000 to 1 loyalty points for every gift. So whether you give fiat currency through their website or you give USDC from Ethereum, from a from a MetaMask wallet, for example,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to award you with 10,000 loyalty points to $1. And so then we will recognize those gifts with a free, no value donation premium of Texan tokens. And so this is a means, 100% of the money goes to them. This is a means for us to do token distribution to this initial group. And then we will also provide a claim for an airdrop to anyone who had sacked for Pulse, Pulse X, or has a hex stake.
Wow. Okay. That's great. So, I mean, the one thing I love about this, what you've done and your team is that, like you said, there's so many new projects coming on that, I mean, you get it, I get it. We get hit all the time that hey, can I come on your stream? And it's an idea, right? And I'm not knocking people, because everyone, can do whatever they want, but I love that you have a completed, ready to go project. Like, I mean, Pulse Chain launches, you guys are, I mean, you're flipping a switch and you're ready to roll, right?
Oh yeah. So if you if you pull up that Texan Token website and
Sure.
throw that up there, let me just kind of give you a little bit of tour here.
Okay.
At the very top of this page, you'll see two buttons. The one on the left is the Texan contract, so you can actually see the code if you'd like. And then on the right is the donation phase details, and it has a timer in it. So this is where you'd go if you want to know more about donation phase, you want to know how it works, and you want to link out, let's say, fiat donations of cash. You can go right to the Texas Nationalist Movement website, or you can get the address for donating directly to their wallet in USDC. But I think that the key things to note are drill into the audit, look at our white paper, and then understand, what are these tokenomics? Because what I hope to get out to everyone today is what the details of the tokenomics really are. Because I think that a lot of people make assumptions about what Texan Token is, and they don't really actually know how it works. Even people that have read into it don't understand it. So a deep dive, I think, would be really helpful. At the top right, though, we've got this stake function. I've connected my wallet previously, but if you click the stake function, the D app is right here. So I don't have any current stakes. If I click the stake button and I say, all right, I want to put in a certain number of Texan tokens and I want to stake them, I can choose to either, I could do it by year. So in this case, 22 years. There's a chart that is created and shows you exactly how many basically Texan tokens are reserved for you when you stake. And so what's unique about this endowment contract is that it reserves all of the potential interest or yield ahead of time. And so what's really, I think, very exciting about this is that we have added a scrape function, the ability for you to, without penalty, pull your interest off the table if you'd like. And so the D app is here. It's working on the test net. You can use Test Pulse and you can get Texan, right? You can swap on Pulse X for Texan, and you can try out the D app. And so these things are all available to you right now, completed. And so, yeah, that enables us to literally flip a switch, once the dust settles on the Pulse chain.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, I've looked over the site, and well done. I mean, this D app is so simple to use. And like, for me, like, even getting people that don't understand a lot of this, I think this D app makes it pretty straightforward and simple.
Yeah, it's very simple. And once you have a stake set, so if I wanted to start this stake, it would create the stake and I'd have to, put things together. And I'm not going to do it right now just because I don't want to dox myself or my wallet or anything. But it'll keep track of your stakes. There's unlimited stakes. Your minimum stake day, I think, is 2 days. The maximum stake length is 22 years. You can do as many stakes as you want. X-Ray Vision's actually created a scraping ladder, in different strategies. But at the end of the day, the yield in all of this is actually better than compounding. And I'll show you what I mean by that when we look at the other chart.
Okay. White paper, we definitely, I really want to go into the tokenomics because I know that's something that so many people want to know about.
Yep. All right. So obviously it's going to be on the Pulse chain. It's a PRC20, but there is interest yield that is baked in for those who stake. And so because our supply is determined ahead of time, there's 100 trillion tokens, but 97% of tokens are locked in the contract with no keys. So there's not like an OA and you're worried that this OA might dump on your head. They're locked. There are no keys to it. And so that is what we call a proof of stake mine. So we're essentially giving a gift to the Texan community and saying, if you want access to these tokens, you have to stake. The base rate is a 5% base rate. And so annually, you'd receive 5%. So there are people, and the reason it's 5% is this is the core with nonprofit organizations with endowments. They want at minimum 5% of their money. Well, if you're willing to wait longer, you can get up to 236% in year 22, or a maximum of 1,881% if you were the whole 22 years. And the average over that time is 87%. And so this is a very attractive incentive for people to stake. But what makes it unique is that it's deflationary because all penalties, like in Hex, penalties are distributed to the staker class.
Mm-hmm.
And so some go to the OA and then others go to the staking class. And in this scenario, when someone emergency end stakes and loses their potential interest, it stays burned. Because when you make a stake, you burn your tokens and all of your potential interest, and then you mint back that yield when you either scrape or when you finish off your full stake. Okay, so it's deflationary. And then there's 3% of the token allocation is for the donors who give, the partners, and the team. And so a very small amount of the total supply is reserved. But one of the things that's really exciting about this is that the partners and the team are required to stake for 22 years. So literally, as far as circulating supply, it's going to be about 1% of the total supply. And that's good. There's no admin keys. It's immutable. Once it's out, it's out. We can't touch it. And it is also security audited by CertiK, and you can review that certification.
Okay. So real quick, where did the 22 years come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. Good question. Well, the simple answer is 22 is my favorite number.
There you go.
That's not a good enough reason. So in the endowment world, multi-generational is the key, right? People are looking at securing their future, right? And so the way we've set things up, we, unlike Hacks, do not recurse days. So we don't look at the day and say, well, what was the total and what were the penalties and what's the T-share rate? And part of the issue with that, and Richard's acknowledged this, that there are challenges with that as it relates to the length of stakes. That's why 5555 is the max. And then there's also an issue with, in memory holding all of those numbers because it has to recurse through days. And so one of the challenges with Hex is the cost of the gas fees to end a long stake. Now, if the gas fees are low, it doesn't matter. But what happens is you have to recurse through all of the days to understand what the T-share rate was when you're basically ending your stake. And that's why there's a lot more calculations. We decided that we would take the entire calculation and embed it in the contract. So if you look into the contract, you will see each year what the actual interest is, and it's hard coded into the contract so that when a stake is ended or a scrape is done, it's basically doing a very simple 3-step math problem. And so that keeps the gas fees down. But the 22 years ultimately is, we want people to think long term. And there's no limit really. We could have made it 33, but we made it 22 just because that is over a generation, right? When you think 22 years, I'm thinking about my grandkids, not my kids.
Right.
And so with endowments and those type of things, you're thinking about perpetuating the future, right? You're thinking long term. And part of what makes crypto work and why Hex works so well is because people understand the idea of long-term planning and not trading. And so it's a part of the narrative, but it's also built into the system. And there's no reason it couldn't be longer, but we decided to do 22.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification.
You bet.
Let
me show you a specific example. If you show those slides that I gave you there that are up.
You got it.
All right. So this is the percentage yield curve. I want people to see how the Texan token actually works, because there was some misunderstanding even with those who looked into the tokenomics. So you'll notice that on year one, it's 5%. That's always the base rate. But if you were to do a 22-year stake, it actually adds these all together. And so year one, you get 5%. When year two's over, you have 5 plus 6, right? That's 11. Plus 8, plus 11, plus 15, plus 20. So if you were to hold for 22 years, and let's say, I was thinking about my a grandkid that's not born. Let's say I took $100 and I said, I'm going to put it into Texan. I'm going to forget about it. I'm going to stake it for 22 years, and I'm not going to get out of it till the end. You'd have 1,881% total yield on that $100. These things, these add together. This is each of the years separately. But as you hold, and don't scrape, because if you scrape, it goes back to 0, day one, right? So you get 5%. So some people would look at this and say, hey, I'm cool with 5%. I'm very cool with that. I'll scrape every single month for cash flow. And that's what a endowment does. But in this case, if you were to hold, we wanted to provide a huge incentive. So if you go to actually, I can go to it. This next slide, I took it basically, what if it was all equal, right? And so I said this is a dollar figure. If I had $1,000 and the price never changed, there was no price appreciation, it was a static price. This $100, year one, you'd get an extra $50. But if you held this for 22 years, your $1,000 would be $18,810. Okay, so people don't realize how significant this is to hold, because the majority of this yield comes after 15 years. Mm-hmm. But it's huge, right? It's 1,881% with no price appreciation. And so it's a unique perspective, but it also negates, like if you were to try to take your stake and you were going to scrape and then recompound it, you couldn't do as good as this. And that was intentional, because we didn't want people, gaming the system. We just wanted to give them more incentive to hold. And so the real, I think the exciting thing about this is that these percentages add up as you hold. Okay. So it ends up being 1,881. The average, if you were to take all 22 years and divide them by the total, it's 87% annual average return. So because this is a set supply, and because it's deflationary, there is a moment in time in the future when there is no more staking, because the entire mine is mined out, like Bitcoin, right? Once everything's mined out, there's no more mining. The same thing is true, but it's proof of stake. And so in about 50 to 100 years, which is plenty of time, there's a point in which you will not be able to stake for any more yield. So there's a bit of a kind of a gold mine with a finite amount of resources, and you go in and you kind of stake your claim. And that's the whole tokenomics, and that's the psychology of the token and how we put this together. So
I know you mentioned the scraping, and I hear, and I watch stuff, and people are pretty happy that that option is here. I mean, I know you're trying to get people to hold, and I get that, but scraping is kind of nice too. So, but when you scrape, you say you go back to the 5%. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you go back to day one, but you don't. So what we've done is we've taken the principal and the interest and separated them out. So we have what's a principal stake, and then it calculates interest. And so you can at any time without penalty scrape that interest, but it just puts you back to day one. You still have your stake, right? So let's say you go 10 years and you get into financial trouble, you could literally scrape with no penalty any of the interest that you've earned. And that's really the point of this. I think, to be honest with you, it's really interesting. So, and this is potentially controversial. We have all of these derivative contracts. And I was with Maddie last night when he was talking about his way of locking up things, right?
Right.
Well, what have we found? We had this truth engine in Hex, right? That held you accountable to 15 years. But what did people decide to do? Build derivatives on top that circumvent the rules because they want to make those things liquid so that you can do more trading, or you can get a loan on them, or you can encapsulate them and sell them. And I understand why, but at the end of the day, the whole point, and this is what Maddie's big point is that it was set up to do a certain thing. And when you basically go against the tenets of holding and delaying gratification and paying your future self, now these things are always going to happen, right? But we looked at this and we said, all right, people, this would not be an endowment if you couldn't get cash flow. It wouldn't be an endowment. So the scraping function made a lot of sense for us. If we're going to mimic an endowment, endowments have to have cash flow. It's a perpetuity. They don't touch principal. So we had to have a mechanism where you could get cash out of the system. But what I think is unique about this, when you end a stake or you get to the end of a stake in Hex, you have all of the money.
Right.
And, I'm not saying that money burns a hole in your pocket, but you have everything. Now, I think wise people restake, but they have to take all of it, right? Now you could do good accounting. That's a whole other thing. But in this scenario, I think people will be more likely to push stakes out longer because they've got this kind of trap door that they can pull, and they say, well, at least I can get this interest off. And they may, I hope, be more willing to push out their principal stakes further. And so this is just psychology and tokenomics that help promote buying and holding, which we know is the key to price appreciation, right? Is stability. Right. And so those are the premises. And hey, learned all of this from Richard Hart, right? He's the guru.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, where else can you, it's funny because some people say, oh, only 5%, but I challenge them to go find a place where you actually make 5%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And then you said an average of what, 87% if you.
Yeah, the average over 22 years, it would average out to 87. And then the total is 1,881%.
See, that blows my mind. Kind of like you and I were talking about your wife, my wife. If I told her something like this, she would go, "Yeah, whatever." Like
yeah.
It's hard to fathom that because people they don't understand the gains on this side of the world. In my opinion, you come from the other side where it's like you're in this box, right? And this box is defining what you're making or not making. So.
But let's also understand the difference. Like if you really look at Hex, it's not about the 3.69. It's not about the 38% APY. It's about 10,000x, right? Mm-hmm. The tokenomics support the stability. The times when you appreciate staking is in a bear market because it's paying you every single day. That's a good tokenomic. And what do people do? They're like, hey, I'm all staked. This is all good. And they feel good about their investment because they're getting paid every single day. I think the same thing is true here, is that we want people to, we want to promote a certain behavior that makes sense and what creates stability. But when you think about, interest and yield in this scenario, it's not variable, it's fixed, it's hard coded. And so, people want to be able to determine, what do I want to accomplish? And the thing about this contract is it's not variable at all. Right. And in a way, what we've done is we've taken this kind of t-shirt, right, and we've embedded it. And we said there's no variability to it. And then any penalties are going to be deflationary to the system because they'll all get burned. So it's actually really a lot more simple, but it utilizes tenets that I think are wise when it comes to tokenomics.
Gotcha. Okay. So you covered the graphs here. Do you want me to take these down now?
Yeah, that's good.
Are you good with these? Okay. Take those down. So tell me, I mean, we kind of got into the tokenomics of, well, we did get into the tokenomics of it, because the one thing I love about it, and you just said it, I think sometimes we try to make things so difficult, right? Like it's simple. Like what you're doing to me is like pretty straightforward and simple. It's not like, hey, go buy this green thing and you'll get a pink thing and you'll get, so I appreciate that. But what, I mean, you've been talking about this now for a long time. What's the standard question that you're getting over and over and over that people aren't grasping?
There's not too many things. I think that I think a lot of the questions that we get are um, around this idea of Texas independence. Honestly, the people that get, it's kind of funny. It's very binary. You either get it or you don't get it. And I think a dividing line for us is we're trying to tokenize a community, and we're trying to bring these people up to speed, knowing that they're only going to dip their toe in the water. So I think there's a real unique opportunity for people who understand crypto to get in and have something that could be beneficial to them. But I think that the big issue it comes into, and it's a great example. I've had RG3. I've talked to him and I've talked to Kinetics. Right, they see things differently. Not everybody is okay with the political aspect. Yeah. I think that this is really unique because I think that the blockchain is going to impact every part of society. This is the first time that the blockchain project has been tied directly to a political outcome. That's unique. It's the first time an endowment token has been put on the blockchain.
Right.
What's unique about this is it's polarizing, right? Some people are like, well, what are the implications of an independent Texas? And they don't see it as a positive. And so I think a lot of the questions that we get are around this issue of wow, you've gone into something, you've waded into some territory that's pretty polarizing. But when I look at what's going on in the world, I feel like we don't have any handles to grasp onto. We don't have any way to push back. We can complain about it and we can argue on Twitter about it, but this is actually something people can do. There's a organization of 500,000 people that have done. There's a recent poll that said 66% of Texas voters would vote for Texas independence. You only need 50% plus one. And so that means that if there was a referendum and a vote held today, the people of Texas would decide to be independent again. What are the implications of all that? And I think, Texas is the 9th largest economy in the world. And Texas has got a lot of amazing attributes and a lot of independent thinking people. But I think what needs to happen is we need to have sensible, responsible people push back on authoritarianism, push back on globalism. And what options do you have? And I think that this kind of leadership is that if Texas is successful here, a lot more people are going to consider, hold on, wow, all political power is actually inherent in the people. And this is an example of the people saying, no, we don't like you sending all of our money to the Ukraine to defend their borders when we're not protecting our own, or whatever your axe to grind is.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I was thinking about that today when I saw the Jackson, Mississippi, with the problems they had with their water system that they've known about for a gazillion years. It's just that kind of stuff that when you and I probably both, we were walking down the street, we see homeless people, we see people starving. It's like, doesn't make sense, right? But here's a question for you, and I can't remember the answer, and you'll know this because you're a smart guy and I'm not. But so if this happens, how strong of an economy would like Texas in general be? I mean, would it be number 3? What do they say right now?
Well, we've grown by about 2 million people here in the last several years. I think that a lot of people would move to Texas. They already are, right? It's a very attractive place. There's no state income tax here. There's a lot of benefits for corporations. We've got more Fortune 500 companies. We've got a really, really good base, right? We've got a deep water port. We've got our own electricity grid. That's debatable on how well that's working. We've got unbelievable oil and gas. We've got rare earth elements. We've got a lot of really good things and a very, very large place with a lot of land. But when it comes to, right now, we're the 9th largest economy, right? Texas's economy is bigger than Russia and Canada, right? Past Brazil, right? So when you look at a state in and of itself and its strength. We're a net exporter to the federal government. About $316 billion we send to the federal government. And so I think that there's a chance that it moves up several. But I think more importantly, it's the leadership in the world, right? It's independent people. See, one of the reasons that people across the world, the globalists, hated Trump was because he was somebody that was America first. And they see that as a threat, because the globalists who want to set up systems of control is that, they don't want anyone getting in their way. And they are used to going to people like Trudeau, and he wants to be a part of the World Economic Forum, and he wants to do social credit scores, and he wants to do IDs. And here's this guy who's tough, who goes, no, I don't want to do it. I want to watch out for my people. And that resonates with people. And populism is one of those things that globalists see as very, very dangerous. They want open borders. They want things to be, they want to have the control. And so this is a real, in my opinion, a pushback, because these things are contagious, right? When people see that you can do this and you've got a means. Now, here's the crazy thing. What happens when we decentralize the money in Texas? What if we strengthen the people? What if the people of the Texas nationalist movement have an experience like OG Hexicans had? What does it mean when those dollars, that only strengthens Texas's political stance, because those people have resources now. And so it's a combination. It's a really powerful combination. And we're actually having conversations with other groups who are looking at secession movements. And that to me, like, I'm so excited about that, because we are going to be working on additional projects to forward this idea of sovereignty and freedom in the world.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's I love what it's about. And also, I just want to remind people that you guys are capable of bringing so many people in the Pulse Chain as well, that probably never would even seen Pulse Chain or even known what Pulse Chain is. Through a really actually more of an easy kind of onboarding. It's not like you're twisting their arm and having to talk them into stuff.
Yeah.
The one thing I do like about people that are pretty new to it and like no corners, like you say, is that you don't have to tell them a lot, right? You keep it simple and like, here's what you need to do this. A lot of us, me included, we want to look at 50 different options before we do it. So I think Pulse Chain is going to benefit, like big time from this.
Well, and think of how lucky they are. They don't know that they're getting onboarded into the Richard Heart ecosystem. They don't realize what they're getting into. Yeah. That's exciting too, that, Richard wants to save people financially. I mean, this is going to be their first introduction. But to me, the big idea here is, these communities, everything, right? More buyers than sellers, right? And so what do? We go to the grocery store, we go to weddings, we go to our baseball and softball games, we talk to friends, we tell them about Hex, right? Onesie twosies. That's what we should all be doing. We put stickers on things. We try to get the word out. But at the end of the day, there are these communities that exist that inherently have value. And so we look at that and we go, hold on a second. If we can show these people a future where they unlock their own value by decree, right? Saying this is our value, we can unlock a lot of wealth, but also a lot of people into the Pulse Chain. And so I say to people, if you don't like our politics, totally fine. We're going to help pump your bags if you've got Pulse or Pulse X. So just sit tight. And if you want to claim, you're going to get free Texan. And we just ask that you please don't dump it on our heads. That's what we're hoping. And if you want to, you will. Hexo said he would dump on our heads, but that's okay.
Well, it's right at an hour, Matt. And, I told you we do an hour, and I know you're a busy guy and you got family, and I do too. So let's just kind of leave it at, I'd like to know kind of a final thought of, where you see, the Texan token being, and, once Pulse Chain launches, what's the future for this? What do you see?
Well, I think, the first thing everybody asks us that is a no coiner, they say, where do I buy this token? And you and I well know that it's not launched because there's no Pulse Chain.
Right.
People, I think really where we're going to see a dramatic influx of people is when we actually have a price chart. And we're seeing that right now with people that are launching on Ethereum, these derivatives of Hex, right? It's exciting to look at Hedron, right? Because it's active. It's not like, well, we're planning on launching on the Pulse Chain. So I think one of the most powerful things is showing them actual price chart. So to me, with all the momentum and all of the marketing and all the baked in marketing with the system state and with the highest of stakes movie, the excitement, I think Pulse Chain is going to be the most talked about and most exciting thing. Why? Because Richard Hart has geniusly given people the largest airdrop in history, and there are all these new exciting projects. I would say though, this is the bear market. This is an opportunity. Um, this is how we do token distribution. You know, it may be something you're a part of history. I mean, that's the cool thing about this. If you donate to the TNM, you get to watch from the sidelines, or you can get active, whatever you want to do. But no matter where you are in the world, you're going to be able to say, "Hey, I was a part of this effort to help a group of people, decide their own fate and their self determination." I think that that's kind of cool, because what other things do you have that have that kind of utility? I mean, what is it?
Can't think of anything.
Yeah, like the metaverse or
Yeah.
NFTs. I mean, I don't need a bored ape,
Yeah.
So this is cool, and it's meaningful, and it's worthwhile. Um, so I just hope people see that vision and realize that we've done very responsible, thoughtful things here and wanted to do it right.
Yeah.
And but I'm very confident, the timing of everything. I'm very, very bullish on this whole era that we live in. We got to go through a tough time here, and if we can hang on, we're going to see the next renaissance. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, I want that's a great way to end it right there.
Awesome. Thanks, man. T-Rob, you're awesome, man. Thank you so much.
I loved having you anytime. And the Texan token, I love what's going on. Everyone, go to TEXAN.CC for more info and support this movement, support this cause, because it's just bigger than Texas. And support this guy here. He's one of the best we got, and I'm really honored to have you on. I hope you have a great evening. Thanks so much, Matt.
Yep. Thank you, T-Rob. Appreciate you.
We'll see you, man. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. That was my man, CryptoHeartBeat. What a super guy. But I would urge you to go to Texan.CC to learn more about it. If you don't know about it, he is streaming in a lot of different places. But I was honored to have him tonight. And thank you all for joining. And I will catch you next time here on the Biz Pulse. You guys be safe. God bless. Have a great one.